Let's talk about West Virginia. A couple months back, we looked at why so many people were moving to this Appalachian state. As soon as that video went up, the comment section went ablaze with people wondering why anyone would move to West Virginia, while a bunch of other people kind of defended West Virginia and said it was a great state. That's the beauty of human beings. We are all different. Most people love hot weather, others don't. Some people see life in a small town as slow death, while others dream about it. So just because we said some nice things about West Virginia in the last video, it doesn't mean the state is for everyone. Myself, I love this state, but to be honest, West Virginia for a long time has been considered the worst state. These days, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas have flown past them. But like I said in past videos, they've had some really bad luck over the last few decades. The coal industry tanked, the opioid crisis gripped the state tighter than any other state. The list goes on. These days, things are moving in the right direction with the influx of new people like remote workers and retirees. West Virginia may have some problems, but being expensive ain't one of them. And that's why a majority of the new people are relocating here. But that's not what we're looking at today. We're looking at the reasons people won't move to West Virginia. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, cold winters. Yes, West Virginia being a mountain state gets some pretty cold winters. I think that's something that's often overlooked when people are talking about West Virginia. They always talk about the other things going on there. They never talk about how brutally cold it can get during the winter. Obviously, the temperatures in West Virginia are going to decrease with an increase in altitude, meaning regions such as the Allegheny Mountains and southern highland areas experience cooler temperatures than the low-lying areas of the state. This is with everyone. That's not a unique thing to West Virginia. In the winter, temperatures range around the low 20s in the cooler mountainous areas in the central and northwest portion of the state. In the warmer southern border, temperatures can hover around 30 degrees in the winter season. That's just kind of the average. It gets much lower. The lowest temperature ever recorded in West Virginia was minus 37 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was in Lewisburg on December 30th, 1917. If you're looking at snowfall, it varies obviously depending on what part of the state you're in, but let's take two examples here. The snowfall in Charleston is around 34 inches annually. When you get up into the Allegheny Highlands, which is in the northern part of the state, sort of, that can get up around 180 inches a year. The good news is it is considered the least tornado-prone state east of the Rockies. Number 9, the crime rate. Yep, a lot of people think that the crime rate is really bad in West Virginia. It's not great, but it's definitely not worthy of being a reason to stop you from moving there. Let me explain. Violent crime rate is always the one that stops people from moving someplace. You know, property crime's horrible, you lose some stuff, but you don't lose your life. So everyone's worried about the violent crime numbers. In reality, West Virginia is not that bad. They're ranked 24th in the nation. They have 355 violent crimes for every 100,000 residents. That's not terrible. Arkansas has 671 for every 100,000 residents. Now, on the good side, Maine is always one that has a low violent crime rate. They only see about 108 violent crimes for every 100,000 residents. That's not really cool, Maine. You're making all the other states look really bad. Violent crime is Maine is like an 8th grader pulling some kid's underwear up over the back of his head. What'd they call that back in the day? The atomic wedgie? But yeah, a lot of people complain about the violent crime in West Virginia, and it's an illusion. It's really not that bad. Their property crime, that's a little worse. They're ranked 31st in the nation, which is better than they were in 2016 when they were 44th. Number 8, lack of diversity. This one is a favorite for the comment section, especially for the people that may have had parents that were also cousins. People always want to bring up some bizarre fact about diversity and how it doesn't work and it brings the country down, when in reality, diversity is what made this country. And even in the early days, there was a lot of friction. It just wasn't a black, brown, or white issue. The English and the Germans would have loved to have seen the Irish head back to where they came from. The reality of diversity is more people in the United States enjoy a place with a good amount of diversity over places that have no diversity. And West Virginia is the least diverse state in the country. That's right, West Virginia is the most racially and ethnically homogeneous state in the nation. It could also be homogeneous. Those are two different words that mean the same thing. One's just a lot older. Now, the entire state isn't just an episode of hee-haw. They do have some pockets where you will find some diversity. Charleston, Huntington, places like that. Overall, the state comes up a little short when it comes to diversity. Only 1.6% of the residents are foreign born in West Virginia. Over 90% of those living in West Virginia Virginia are white. Now, diversity might not be your thing. I'm not going to judge you. I will make jokes, but I'm not going to judge you. You do you. But most people like to expand their horizons by interacting with other cultures, languages, food. And no, Taco Bell is not diversity. Number 7, it's rural. Now this is one of the ones that I talk about people are different. Some of you right now are going, there's nothing wrong with rural. While others are going, if I can't go to the club on the weekend, I'm gonna have a freaking breakdown. And when you're living rural, you don't get to go to the club every weekend. You end up in some roadside bar where the locals go there so often, they got their own stools at the bar. Just like Norm at Cheers with overalls and fewer teeth. A majority of West Virginia's 1.8 million residents live in communities with fewer than 2,500 people. About 2/3 or 64% of West Virginia lives in what is considered rural areas. Number 6, limited job opportunities. This is probably one of West Virginia's biggest problems. And that's why West Virginia is laying out the welcome mat for remote workers and retirees. They don't have enough jobs to go around. The last thing they need are people moving into the state looking for a job. So if you show up making $100,000 a year, working from home for some company in, let's say, Washington, D.C., you might end up getting the key to the city in Moorefield, West Virginia. Now, West Virginia still does have some mining and logging jobs. It's not what it was in their heyday, but they're still there. But since 2013, the coal production is down about 40%. I honestly think West Virginia should really start focusing on their tourism. There are very few states that are as beautiful as West Virginia with as many things to do outdoors. Camping, hiking, walking around, river rafting, kayaking, zip lining, mountain biking, fishing, hunting. If you want to do it outdoors, West Virginia is probably in your top 5 best places to do it. Right now, tourism adds about $2.7 billion to the state's economy. And I think that's going to continue to grow. So in the future, I think if you're working in the tourism industry, customer service industry, you might be able to find a good job in West Virginia. These days, jobs are still a little hard to come by. Number 5. Poverty. West Virginia is a state that has always struggled with their poverty rate. They always seem to be neck and neck with Mississippi when it comes to being the poorest state. In 2023, 17.54% of West Virginia's population lives below the poverty line. Put that in comparison, the US average is about 11% right now. There's a bunch of different reasons West Virginia has such a high poverty rate. Obviously, one of them is going to be the coal industry declining. That industry supported this state for decades. Like I had said, it's dropped 40% since 2013. Another big problem they have is they have a lack of an educated workforce. This normally means a lot of high-paying technical jobs don't move into a state that doesn't have a workforce that they need. West Virginia comes in last place when it comes to the percentage of adults with bachelor degree or higher. Number 4, they got bad roads and traffic. Now, you wouldn't expect West Virginia to have bad traffic. I saw a lot of complaints about this and people have brought it up. Now, the last 2 times I went to West Virginia, I saw their traffic, and it's different than any other state. Most states have their traffic around the metro areas. West Virginia has it other places. Most of this state is mountainous, and a lot of those mountain roads are 2-lane roads. And if a car breaks down in a lot of different places there, or they have a problem with the road, side note, West Virginia has some of the worst infrastructure in the country. The roads are often narrow and winding, which makes it very difficult for drivers to pass other cars. Now, they do have passing lanes and all that, but not as many as you'd hope they'd have. There's also a lot of trucks that make the drive even slower, logging trucks, industrial trucks that deal with coal, gas, oil, whatever. They also have a strange amount of accidents, and I think that has to do with obviously the roads and the weather and everything else. Yeah, it's some rough driving in West Virginia. They're a talented bunch when it comes to driving these mountain roads, but still, things happen and it slows it down. Number 3, government services. This one was brought up a lot in the survey. One man wrote that every government office seems to be half-staffed. This obviously plays into why their infrastructure sucks and everything else. A lot of it has to do with tax dollars. They don't have a lot of big industries paying taxes like they did in the past. They don't have a lot of people making a whole bunch of money to give them a good tax revenue. But yeah, a poor economy in a state affects everything, including all the government funding. That's why everything seems to be half-staffed, because it probably is. Number 2, it's not family friendly. You know, this is another one I don't really agree with. I think it's a great state to raise a family, especially with all the outdoor stuff you could do. They do have some negatives though. Obviously, opportunity for your kids when they get out of school can be a problem. Their schools aren't the best. West Virginia is actually ranked 43rd in education and childcare. And of course, the extreme poverty rate that they have too, that's not great for kids. I mean, poverty is not great for anyone, but especially when you have small children. That being said, West Virginia has the fewest number of young children per capita. I still don't agree with it. I think it's a great place to raise a family. Might want to homeschool them, but it showed up an awful lot on the survey. All right, before we get to number 1, I want to remind you that if you want to help out the channel, at the end of this video, it suggests some other videos to watch. That's something that really helps the channel if you watch a second video. If you can't, I understand, but if you got time, please do. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, poor education. Now, this is one of those things that we've already touched on a little bit, but it deserves its own place, and it showed up an awful lot on the survey. Now, the people I know from West Virginia seem to be pretty smart. I've never had a conversation with one of them and thought to myself, you know what? I wonder what this dude's SATs were. Now, this is how bad it is. West Virginia is ranked 53rd in the nation when it comes to education, making it one of the least educated states in the union. Now, that also counts territories. There's a couple territories that did better than West Virginia. They also include Washington, D.C. in that. And like I said earlier, they have the lowest percentage of adults with bachelor degrees or higher in the United States. All right, so in my opinion, West Virginia is a perfectly fine state. I wouldn't mind living there. I've been to Charleston a few times in the last couple years. I love the people there. I have friends there. Charleston's a nice city. It's a beautiful state. It's just not for everyone. All right, everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.